Hello and welcome back to the Tech Shop. I'm Ryan Wenzel, and today we're going to go over a basic tutorial for OBS. So the things we're going to cover today are identifying the capabilities of OBS, downloading and installing OBS. We're going to go over a general video and audio setup, as well as a general operations for streaming and recording. So the first thing we want to do is go to obsproject.com. And I'll put a link to the website in the description down below. And we want to download the corresponding program for the operating system that we want to use. It comes for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux operating system. Once you've downloaded it, go ahead and follow your normal procedures to install it into your computer and then open OBS. Once you've downloaded and opened OBS, you should be greeted by a screen similar to this. Now there are going to be a few differences that I'm going to point out right now, and the only reason why you're seeing some of this stuff on screen is just because I'm using OBS for this demonstration. So first of all, you're not going to have a webcam set up. You should be greeted by a blank screen in the center of your canvas. Your scenes, your sources, audio mix should all be blank, and you should not have a recording option that is currently running in the control section. So that's the basic difference. Hopefully we'll go over those more in a later class. Before we start inputting any of our sources into OBS on our canvas, one of the things I do recommend is that you have a clean workspace. And what I mean by that is that your desktop is sanitized of any personal information, any sensitive documents or passwords or things that you don't necessarily want to get out while you're streaming. I would recommend that you either close those windows or use a secondary screen, something that you're not going to accidentally stream while you're operating OBS that you don't want it to get out there. In addition, I would also recommend having a source folder. So any of the stuff that you want to bring into OBS to put on the canvas to create different scenes, to have one centralized folder that you're going to use to essentially bring in any of the assets that you want to use. So what I have here is any of my audio files, any of my transition watermarks. I have those all in one centralized file, so I know that they're easy to get and move into OBS. So how do we actually get this stuff into OBS? Well, there's a couple different ways. We can drag and drop the objects from the file folders into OBS on the canvas. We can right click and add the individual sources that we want into OBS, or we can click the plus sign and we can add it that way. So it's pretty user friendly. Alright, so let's start importing files into our sources folder here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus button. I'm going to go into images. Right now I'm just going to say this is image 2. I can also go into add existing, so if I've already put some sources into OBS, I can just quickly add those to my scenes. So we're going to go to new, okay. Image file, we're going to go to browse. And like I was talking about before, I already have it linked up to my source folder. So I'm going to just go to this black box here, hit OK. Yep, this is the one. Awesome. So you can see here I've imported this black box into my canvas, into my scene here. If I want to, I can just rename it, call it BB, enter. I can change the overall size by grabbing one of the corners. I can hold Alt and crop the image if I need to. And if I don't want it anymore, I can highlight it and hit delete. And it's as simple as that. Now that we've done a basic import of a file into our sources here, let's look at some of the actual things that we can import into OBS. And I just want to go over some key ones. Obviously the audio input capture, that's for you doing any VO work or your microphone. Your audio output capture, so if you're doing a live concert or you're putting music through, you want to have one of those sources in there as well. Display capture, so that's any of the overall displays you're using. So if you're using multiple display units, you can decide I only want this display, but I want the whole thing to be put in as a source. You can do window capture, say if you want only one specific window, you have an internet browser on, you're doing a conference, and you just want this window to be broadcasted, you can do it that way. As well as a video capture device or webcam and a text file. And some of those text files you can do some pretty interesting things, such as doing a countdown timer for a pre-show or for a certain event, and we'll go over those in a later video. Alright, now let's go into settings, and we can do that by either going up into File and opening up settings that way, or we can go over into the control panel and hit settings and open up our options there. Alright, I like to start off going into video and setting my base canvas resolution as well as my output scale resolution. I usually leave my output resolution somewhere between 1080p and 720. It just makes it a little easier for me to stream out and for audience people to watch whatever I'm trying to stream. Usually some third-party companies will give you kind of a base resolution of like, hey, you should use this or this depending on your internet, and so you can go off of that. It's probably the best practice. For FPS, same thing. I try to stay around 60. It seems to work really well for me, but you just should test whatever works the best for your setup and go off of that. Alright, going into audio, this is the similar thing we were talking about earlier. Whatever works best for your setup, go ahead and test and play around with what ultimately is going to sound the best to you. For me, I've got a dedicated mic setup, so I stick at 48 kilohertz, and everything else I just plug and play as I put those sources into my scenes. Alright, let's go into stream, and we'll set up our stream for whatever service we want to use. So if you go into show all, there's going to be a plethora of different services you can use, but the basic ones that I like using are anything from Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So let's just go ahead and try Twitch out. So you can use the stream key. You can get the stream key by going to whatever service you want to use. This is one of those things I was talking about earlier about safeguarding information. So make sure that you have all of this stuff already set up prior to you recording anything. That's you recording or you streaming. So we'll copy our primary stream key here, go back into OBS, paste it, and we're ready to go once we apply. Or you can, what's recommended is connect your account. So we'll do that now. Whatever service you decide to use, I would recommend that you set up two sources of verification, either an email and a phone number, that way they can send you a code and say, yes, I'm in fact this person. It's just going to be better overall for you to set up security. So we've got Twitch connected. We can enable bandwidth test mode. We can turn on chat add-ons. This is just going to add some functionality to our overall canvas so that we're able to communicate with an audience. So we'll do that right now. Okay, and as you can see here now, there's additional screens that have been added up to it, so we can actually communicate with our audience base. And once you're ready to go, you can update your information on the left-hand side, and you can start streaming, and whatever you're streaming to under your category, it'll automatically populate into Twitch, and then you can go to another browser and verify it, make sure all your system settings are good to go. You can also test this prior to streaming to make sure that everything's copacetic before you actually go live. Once you're finished and you've completed recording, your show's done, I'd recommend going to another transitional page, and that's just to help give you some space so that you can stop the stream. You can start and stop the stream under the control panel on the right hand side. You can also record at the same time you're doing that, so you have the raw footage. You can go back and make highlight reels or whatever you'd like to do. All right, that's pretty much the basic down and dirty how to operate OBS from soup to nuts, from downloading it all the way into setting up a basic Twitch account to start streaming. Hopefully later on videos we'll start doing some more advanced things like setting up countdown timers for pre-show, transition from scene to scene to give yourself more of a better production value for the product you're trying to stream, setting up kind of technical difficulty slides, so if something goes wrong, you're able to transition to that, watermarks, as well as multicam. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Stay tuned for more videos in the future, and as always, try to learn something new. All right, thanks for watching.